The whispers rippled through the wedding reception like wildfire. Marcus Reeves, the quiet janitor who'd spent years mopping the floors of Westlake Industries, stood frozen as the handsome groom in his tailored tuxedo approached him, champagne glass raised. "To my boss," the groom announced to the stunned crowd, "the man who taught me everything I know." 200 pairs of eyes swiveled toward Marcus in his rented suit, the same man they'd walked past in hallways for years without a second glance. If you're feeling that tingle of curiosity, that need to know how a seemingly invisible man became someone's hero, stick with me. This story might just change how you see the quiet people in your own life. Like, subscribe, and join me on this journey about the power of seeing people for who they truly are, not just what they appear to be. Marcus Reeves had mastered the art of invisibility long before his daughter Emma was born. Growing up with a stutter that made classmates mock him and teachers sigh in frustration, he'd learned to move through the world with his eyes down, speaking only when necessary. By 35, he could enter a room, clean it thoroughly, and leave without a single person acknowledging his presence. This suited him fine most days. Especially after Diane died. The cancer took her quickly, just 6 months from diagnosis to funeral, leaving Marcus with a 3-year-old daughter and a mountain of medical debt. His community college degree in business administration gathered dust as he took the only job that offered flexible hours and health insurance, night janitor at Westlake Industries, a thriving tech company in downtown Seattle. "It's temporary," he told himself that first night, as he pushed his mop across the gleaming lobby floor. "Just until Emma starts school." But temporary stretched into years. Emma grew from a toddler who cried for her mother into a serious first grader who helped sort the laundry, then a bright middle schooler who excelled at math and science. Through it all, Marcus worked nights, slept while she was at school, and built their life in the hours between. The executives at Westlake knew him as the cleaning guy, if they knew him at all. They left coffee cups on desks with lipstick stains and sticky notes that read, "Please clean," without ever using his name. In meetings he overheard while emptying trash bins, they discussed quarterly profits and innovation strategies, conversations that stirred something in Marcus, reminding him of the business classes he'd once excelled in. Sometimes, alone in the empty building at 2 a.m., he'd sit at one of the executive desks and imagine a different life. He'd study the spreadsheets left open on computers, noting inefficiencies and missed opportunities. Once, he even drafted an email outlining cost-saving measures for the janitorial department, but deleted it before sending. Who would listen to the janitor? Emma was the only one who saw him, really saw him. At 12, she'd look up from her homework at their small kitchen table and say things like, "Dad, you're the smartest person I know. Why don't you get a different job?" He'd ruffle her hair and change the subject. "Smart is as smart does, kiddo. And the smart thing is making sure you have everything you need." What he never told her was how the thought of interviews terrified him. How his stutter returned whenever he felt nervous or scrutinized. How the few times he tried applying for office positions, the moment they saw the gap in his resume or heard him struggle over simple words, their eyes would glaze with that familiar dismissal. So he mopped floors, fixed leaky faucets, and changed light bulbs while executives 20 years his junior made decisions that affected hundreds of lives. And he told himself it was enough, until the night he met Tyler James. It was past midnight when Marcus found the young man sitting alone in the dark conference room, head in his hands, a scattered presentation deck spread across the table. "Sorry," Marcus said, backing toward the door. "I'll come back later." "No, it's fine," the man said, not looking up. "I'm screwed anyway." Something in his voice, raw desperation tinged with defeat, made Marcus pause. He recognized that tone. He'd heard it in his own voice the night after Diane's funeral, when he'd sat on their bed wondering how he'd possibly raise Emma alone. "Bad day?" Marcus asked, leaning his mop against the wall. The young man, he couldn't have been more than 25, finally looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, his tie loosened. "I have to present this proposal to the executive team tomorrow, and it's garbage. Absolute garbage." Marcus should have nodded sympathetically and continued his rounds. That's what the Invisible Man would do. Instead, he found himself asking, "What's the proposal about?" The young man, Tyler, according to his employee badge, laughed bitterly. "Streamlining our supply chain management. I was so excited when they gave me this project. Thought it was my big break." He gestured at the papers. "But I've been staring at these numbers for weeks, and I can't make them work." Marcus hesitated, then set down his cleaning cart. "Mind if I take a look?" Tyler blinked in surprise but pushed the papers toward him. "Knock yourself out. Can't get any worse." For the next hour, Marcus forgot he was a janitor. He forgot about his stutter, which miraculously remained dormant as he explained concepts he hadn't discussed since college. He pointed out flaws in Tyler's approach, suggested alternative frameworks, and even sketched a new workflow diagram on the back of a discarded printout. "This is..." Tyler stared at him, mouth agape. "This is brilliant. Who are you?" "Just the night janitor," Marcus said, suddenly self-conscious as he stood to retrieve his mop. "No way," Tyler shook his head. "You just dismantled and rebuilt my entire presentation in an hour. Where did you learn all this?" Marcus shrugged. "I used to study business. Long time ago." "Well, you should be teaching it," Tyler said, gathering the papers with new energy. "Seriously, you just saved my career." Marcus smiled awkwardly and continued his rounds, assuming that would be the end of it. But the next night, Tyler was waiting for him with coffee and donuts. "The executives loved it," he announced, grinning. "They're implementing the changes next quarter. I told them I had help, but they didn't care. I got a bonus." He pushed an envelope across the table. Marcus shook his head. "I can't take that." "Please," Tyler insisted. "It's the least I can do. And I was hoping, maybe you could help me with something else. There's this inventory management problem I've been assigned." That night marked the beginning of an unlikely friendship. Tyler would stay late once or twice a week, bringing problems from work that they would solve together. For Marcus, these sessions became a lifeline, a chance to use his mind in ways his job never allowed, to remember the person he'd been before grief and necessity narrowed his world. Tyler was curious, eager to learn, and refreshingly direct. He asked about Marcus's background, about Emma, about why someone with his skills was pushing a mop. And Marcus, to his own surprise, found himself answering honestly. "After my wife died, I needed stability more than fulfillment," he explained one night. "Emma needed me to be there, not chasing some career dream." "But she's older now, right?" Tyler asked. 16. 17, Marcus corrected, pride evident in his voice. "Senior year. Applying to colleges. So what's stopping you now?" The question hung in the air. Marcus had no ready answer. 3 months into their late-night collaboration, Tyler approached with a different kind of proposal. "I'm starting my own company," he announced. "A supply chain consulting firm, using the models we developed. I've secured initial funding." He took a deep breath. "I want you to join me. As my partner." Marcus stared at him. "You're joking." "Dead serious. You're the brains behind our best ideas. I'm just the pretty face who presents them." Tyler grinned. "I need you, Marcus. And I think you need this too." For a moment, Marcus allowed himself to imagine it, an office with his name on the door, respect from colleagues, using his mind instead of his hands to earn a living. Then reality crashed back. "I can't," he said. "I have no resume, no references. I haven't worked in business in 15 years. And when I get nervous, I stutter." The familiar catch in his speech emerged as if to prove his point. Tyler's expression didn't change. "I don't care about any of that. I care about results. And together, we get results." What would I even tell Emma? Tell her you're finally taking her advice, Tyler said simply. That night, Marcus sat at his kitchen table long after his shift ended, weighing possibilities against practicalities. When Emma came down for breakfast, she found him still there, surrounded by notes and calculations. "Dad? Did you sleep?" He looked up at his daughter, nearly a woman now, with Diane's eyes and his stubborn chin. "I got a job offer," he said. Her face lit up. "Really? Doing what?" "Business consulting. Partnership in a startup." "That's amazing." She hugged him fiercely. "I always knew you were wasted cleaning up after those corporate types. When do you start?" "I haven't accepted yet," he admitted. "It's a risk. We'd have to tighten our belts while the company gets established. Your college fund is already solid because you've been saving since I was born," she interrupted. "Dad, you've put your life on hold for me for 14 years. Maybe it's time you lived a little too." 2 weeks later, Marcus Reeves gave notice at Westlake Industries. His supervisor barely looked up from his phone as Marcus turned in his keys. None of the executives he'd cleaned up after for years noticed he was leaving. Only the security guard at the front desk gave him a genuine good luck as he walked out for the last time. The first year of TJR Consulting was the hardest of Marcus's life, harder than the year after Diane died, harder than learning to be a single parent. Starting a business from scratch meant 18-hour days, constant worry about making payroll, and the terrifying necessity of meeting with potential clients. His stutter returned with a vengeance in those early meetings. Some prospects would shift uncomfortably or check their watches as he struggled through presentations. Others would interrupt or finish his sentences, their impatience palpable. But Tyler never wavered. He'd step in smoothly when Marcus faltered, then redirect attention back to him for the technical details. And gradually, as Marcus gained confidence, the stutter began to recede again. Not completely, it would always be part of him, but enough that he could manage it rather than being managed by it. Emma left for college that fall, having won a partial scholarship to the University of Washington. She'd call between classes, eager for updates on the business, offering encouragement on the hard days. "Remember when you taught me to ride a bike?" she'd say. "You told me falling was part of learning. Same thing applies to you, Dad." By the 18-month mark, TJR had secured 3 major clients and hired their first employees. By year 3, they'd moved from Tyler's garage to a real office in downtown Seattle, ironically, just 2 blocks from Westlake Industries. Sometimes, walking to lunch meetings, Marcus would pass his former colleagues on the street. They'd look right through him, just as they always had. But now, instead of feeling invisible, he felt free. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday, nestled between bills and business correspondence. "Tyler James and Sophia Chen request the honor of your presence." Marcus smiled, remembering how Tyler had agonized over his proposal plans 6 months earlier. Sophia was perfect for him, brilliant, kind, and completely unfazed by Tyler's workaholic tendencies. They'd met at a business conference where TJR was presenting, and she'd immediately seen through Tyler's smooth presentation style to the solid business model beneath. "Of course I'll be there," Marcus told Tyler that afternoon. "Wouldn't miss it." "Good, because I need a best man," Tyler replied casually. Marcus stared at him. "You have 3 brothers. And 1 business partner who changed my life," Tyler countered. "Unless you're busy that day." The ceremony was beautiful, outdoor gardens, string quartet, Sophia radiant in her gown. Marcus stood tall beside Tyler, his custom suit a far cry from the janitor's uniform he'd worn for so many years. Emma sat in the front row, now a college junior, beaming with pride at her father. It wasn't until the reception that Marcus realized who else was there. Scanning the crowd, he recognized faces from Westlake Industries, executives who'd never learned his name, managers who'd complained if he emptied the trash bins too loudly. Tyler had invited them as industry colleagues, unaware of their connection to Marcus's past. He felt a momentary urge to hide, to become invisible again. Then he caught Emma's eye across the room. She gave him a small nod, as if to say, "You belong here now." The dinner was elegant, the speeches heartfelt. When it came time for the best man's toast, Marcus rose slowly, feeling the familiar tightness in his throat that preceded his stutter. The room fell silent, 200 faces turned expectantly toward him. "I am met Tyler," he began, the slight catch in his voice noticeable, when he was having the worst day of his career. He paused, took a breath, and continued. The stutter faded as he lost himself in the story, their midnight meeting, the unlikely friendship, the leap of faith they'd taken together. He didn't mention his years as a janitor or how these same guests had once looked through him. That wasn't what mattered anymore. To Tyler and Sophia, he concluded, raising his glass. May you build something together even more beautiful than what you could create alone. The applause was warm, genuine. As Marcus sat down, he noticed several Westlake executives studying him curiously, as if trying to place his face. It was during the dancing that the CEO of Westlake, Richard Harmon, approached him. Marcus had emptied this man's trash and cleaned his private bathroom for years. "You look familiar," Harmon said, frowning slightly. "Have we met?" Before Marcus could answer, Tyler appeared at his elbow, champagne in hand. "Richard. I see you've met my business partner," Tyler said cheerfully. "Marcus is the strategic genius behind our supply chain models. The ones that saved Axiom Industries $30 million last year." Harmon's eyebrows rose. "Impressive. Where were you before TJR?" Marcus met his gaze steadily. "I worked at Westlake, actually. For 14 years. "Really? In which department?" "I don't recall." "Facilities management," Marcus said simply. Confusion crossed Harmon's face, then dawning recognition. "You were, maintenance staff?" "He was the night janitor," Tyler interjected, slinging an arm around Marcus's shoulders. "And the smartest person in your building. Your loss, my gain." The look on Harmon's face, shock mingled with disbelief, might once have given Marcus satisfaction. Now it just seemed sad. How many other invisible people were cleaning offices, driving buses, or stocking shelves while their minds and talents went untapped? Later, as the evening wound down, Tyler clinked his glass to call for attention. The remaining guests gathered around, including several Westlake executives who now couldn't stop stealing glances at Marcus. "I want to thank everyone for coming," Tyler began. "Especially my partner, my mentor, and my best man." He turned toward Marcus, raising his glass higher. "To my boss," he announced to the stunned crowd, "the man who taught me everything I know." A murmur rippled through the gathering. Marcus felt Emma's hand slip into his, squeezing gently. "I'm not his boss," Marcus protested quietly when the toast ended. "Equal partners on paper," Tyler agreed. "But we both know I'd be nowhere without you. Some leaders have titles. Others have wisdom. I'll take the second kind any day." As the guests began to depart, Marcus found himself approached by several Westlake executives, business cards extended, suddenly eager to reconnect. He accepted them politely, knowing he'd never call. Emma watched this parade with amusement. "Funny how they all see you now," she observed as they walked to the car. "People see what they expect to see," Marcus replied. "I was invisible because I believed I was invisible. And now?" He looked at his daughter, his brilliant, perceptive daughter who had never once failed to see him clearly. "Now I know better," he said simply. The following Monday, Marcus arrived at the TJR offices to find a young woman waiting in the reception area. She wore a janitor's uniform from the building's maintenance company and clutched a textbook on business analytics. "Can I help you?" he asked. She stood quickly, nervously. "Mr. Reeves? I'm Lucia. I clean the offices at night." She hesitated. I overheard you talking about supply chain optimization yesterday when I was emptying trash. I'm studying business at community college, and I wondered if you might look